Hello, sports fans. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you for stopping by our YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the subscribe and notifications toggle so you never miss a thing. All of our content up here every day. Looking forward to it. Thank you, and we'll see you on the radio.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, time! 3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayla's gone! Goodbye, touchdown, Indy! Woo! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday, and that means we get to talk to the great Don Fischer. Don, how was your weekend? How were you able to stay warm? It was our blast.
Well, it was warm until today. It was fine yesterday. It wasn't terrible, but
Yeah.
It has gotten really cold in a hurry here. And no question, everybody is right now trying to just find a place that they can snuggle up to.
Yeah, I am. I'm good where I am. I'm not going anywhere. Speaking of warm, Indiana basketball warmed things up a bit over the weekend. They go on the road and get a much-needed win. Win needed for in a lot of different ways, but they gut out and grind out a road win in the Big Ten, which in and of itself is a hard thing to do. Then you add in all the things that they were going through, and that adds to that. But so to get that win through all of the adversity, you got to give a shout out to them for that.
Well, they did. They were able to gut one out on Saturday, and without question, it was an important win to get because the 2 previous ball games prior to that were awful performances by Indiana. And embarrassing is the word that Mike Woodson decided to use in regard to those 2 performances against Iowa and Illinois. Giving up 60 points to the Illini earlier in the week was absolutely disheartening for any Indiana basketball fan. And then to lose by 25 in both of those cases, just ridiculous. And all I can tell you is that in the locker room after that ball game, and I didn't hear what was being said at all, but my engineer who, and I don't want to give away anything here, but I know that there was some screaming and yelling going on in the post game of that contest after the Illinois ball game. And you know what? It needed to be done, whatever took place, because those 2 performances against Iowa and Illinois were ridiculous. I say that in the sense that, they were only down 10 at halftime to the Hawkeyes, but it just looked like Indiana had no want to compete in the second half of that ball game, and it carried over to the contest against Illinois. And as everyone knows, student body section were chanting at the end of the first half of that ball game against Illinois. It was not pretty in any way, shape, or form. And at the same time, those guys, the guys that they were chanting, or the guy that they were chanting about, he can't go out there and play. If he could, it would have probably been a much different ball game just because he played so hard when he was a player. But here's the whole point. This Indiana basketball team hopefully has reached a crossroads here and will turn it the other way. And maybe the Ohio State game was the start of that.
Absolutely. And the opportunities are still left. And now you can call them opportunities or challenges because they're going to be both. They are opportunities without question, but this schedule is going to continue to get even harder than it is. I got a new puppy here I'm dealing with.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Hank's going to make his debut, our new engineer. But yeah, I forget what I was saying, but they've got to go on the road yet again at Northwestern and play a team that has played back-to-back overtime games. So they're kind of not struggling, but kind of stung. They took Michigan to overtime in a great game. And now Indiana has to go up there. And so they're looking to get off of that losing side as well. So it's going to be a battle no matter what as they continue to go forward.
Well, there's no doubt. And Northwestern's a basketball team that has had Indiana's number for the last several years now. They have won 4 in a row over IU and 6 of the last 8 matchups. They have beaten Indiana. Chris Collins does a terrific job with his ball club. We know they're not the most talented team in the world. They are certainly one of those, however, that plays as hard as anybody in this league on a game-in, game-out basis. And honestly, I think this is here we go. This is a crossroads, so to speak, for this Indiana ball club. You come up with a big win on Saturday. You beat Ohio State. You had them down 10 with a little over 5 minutes to go, outscored 13-3 to send it into overtime in that last 5+ minutes. And then you were able to gut it out and win the ball game. So that's more of what we would expect from an Indiana basketball team, so much more so than what we saw in those preceding 2 ball games. So we're looking at a ball club, I think, right now that has maybe as important a week as they've had this season in regard to how the rest of this year might go. And if they play like they're capable of playing with the talent level that they have, they will be in the hunt here for the next several weeks of this season. But if they don't play up to their capabilities, if they struggle again to get off to a slow start against the Northwestern team, as you pointed out, these guys, actually their record at 2-5 in the league is it's so different than what you expect, because they could have won almost every Big Ten game they've played this year. And they lost 2 or 3 of the games, 2 or 3 of their losses in the loss column right now are games that they could have won at the very end and just couldn't quite get it done. So this is going to be a challenge for Indiana. And then, of course, I think Maryland's got one of the more talented teams, even though they're struggling a little bit. They're 4-4 at this point, but they ended up winning a ball game that they needed to win too yesterday. So right now, I'm just telling you, I think this is a really huge week for this IU ball club.
Without question, and someone they have to get back into the swing of things is Mackenzie Mgbako. He has just been on a horrible slump. I added his numbers up the other day, and prior to the win at Penn State, he had 20 points, like 7 of 15 shooting.
Right.
He was 4 of 8 from behind the 3-point line. But ever since then, he's shot, I think, 15%, but he has not hit a 3-point shot in 4 games. I think he's 0 for 15.
That is correct. 4 of 29 from the field in those 4 ball games and 0 of 15 from the 3-point line. So Mackenzie has really been struggling of late. Obviously, his minutes have gone down because he's not been producing. It's a gut check for him, I think, at this juncture. Luke Goode came up with his best ball game of the season against Ohio State. Obviously, his career best in scoring 23 points in that contest. And Oumar Ballo, nobody has been more consistent or better than on this basketball team through the last, 6 ball games or so. And he has become the major factor on this team, both offensively and defensively, with his rebounding and his scoring.
Yeah, Luke Goode, and you got to give him a shout out as well, because he was kind of right in the middle of all the stuff that was going on last week, and he kind of put himself in that in large part, but he kind of worked himself out of that and worked through that. So that is very encouraging to see, because he goes out and has the best game of his career, and you've got to really dig down deep to be able to do that.
I agree. There's no doubt about that. They've got a couple of other players that have got to get going too. I think Miles Rice has played pretty strongly throughout the season, but he's had the up and down kind of thing that shows a little inconsistency in his performances. Foul trouble has plagued him a little bit a couple of times, and that's in this part of the year as well. And it's hope that Malik Renew will get back here, because obviously and I don't use that as an excuse, because there's no question this team looked a little bit different since he went out of the lineup, and looked like the spacing might have been a little bit better, especially in those early games coming back in January. How he, without Malik, they played really well in those contests early on, and then it kind of all falls a couple of weeks. So we'll just have to wait and see. But again, I think this week I just think it's huge for this ball club and the mentality of this basketball team.
Yeah, without question. Hopefully that win can get them back into a better frame of mind, first of all, because not only when you have all of the junk that was going on and then you're losing on top of it and losing badly, that all just aggregates and combines up, and you get further into a hole, and they've got a long ways to go yet here in this Big Ten season.
Well, they're tied for 5th place right now. I mean,
yeah.
they're right there. If they come away with 2 wins this week, because I think they'll be tough wins to get, not because the 2 teams they're playing are the best in the league, but because those 2 teams are playing hard and they play well together. And that's the one thing I think that this Indiana basketball team still needs to improve on, because there still seem, and I know this, and I heard Dusty May yesterday after their ball game, after their win over Northwestern, talking about the fact that they're still learning one another and those kinds of things. So that's the common thing that everybody's going through at this point. The Big Ten, almost every team you go into has a lineup that has so many different pieces in there that they normally have. And in Dusty's case, you've got a first-year coach that brought in a whole bunch of new faces. And sure, it takes time to build that repertoire and the ability to play together and know each other and those kinds of things through a season. And Dusty was still lamenting that yesterday. Northwestern's not that kind of team. They've got a ball club that's been together. Ty Berry, Matthew Nicholson, Nick Martinelli, Brooks Barnheiser, all those guys have been on that roster for a couple of years or more. And they are going to, even though they're struggling right now to get wins, just 2-5 in conference play, they're playing everybody right down to the wire and finding ways to win some of those ball games. They did beat Maryland in overtime, leading up to that Michigan loss yesterday in overtime. And they've played 4 overtime games this year, won 3 of them. So you get down to gut check time, and they're going to find a way to get it done. And that's what Indiana's got to learn to do as well.
Absolutely, because this Big Ten is tough. If you don't believe that, Michigan played back-to-back overtime games, like I said, but they were against Minnesota and Northwestern, not Michigan State. It doesn't matter.
They got beat by Minnesota.
Yes, and it's tough whomever you play, wherever you play. So it's going to keep going. Don, what is up next for you? We got another road game coming up ahead for Indiana, as we've talked about. They've got to go to a place where it's normally not been that bad for Indiana. They get a lot of IU fans in there in Chicago.
Well, the problem with that is Indiana's lost 4 in a row to Northwestern and 6 of the last 8, just so you know.
Of course so.
What's the dog's name? What's the dog's
That
name?
is Hank.
Hank?
Yep.
How old a dog is that?
Hank is just 8 months old.
Oh, so when did you get him?
I just got him yesterday as a rescue.
Ah, well, obviously, and he was whimpering for you there for a couple of minutes. That way, you had to go pick him up.
Yeah.
You're just a big floppy. I won't say the other word.
Yeah, big softy, big old softy. Say hi to Don.
I don't think he can talk. If he can talk, man, we got something.
I'm telling you, buddy, we got a whole different new show coming up then, boy. Whole different new post-game show coming.
All right, dude.
Don Fischer, I appreciate you. When's your next Monday night show?
Next Monday, a week from today.
Okay, good.
That'll be Mike Woodson will be on the air with us next Monday, I hope.
Sounds yes.
See ya.
Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Monday.